You can have a handsome face, a fit body, and great conversation skills, and still be ignored by women who once seemed enchanted by you. You know why? Because there's a hidden map inside the female mind, a silent code that 98% of men completely overlook. And it's not about charm or money. It's about emotional reading, subcommunicative control, and above all, your ability to decode the female instinct before it decides for her that you're not the right man. Here's what no one tells you. Female desire isn't logical. It's deeply psychological. When you master that psychological clarity, you awaken something far more powerful than looks or status, your personal magnetism. And believe me, women can sense it before you even say a word. Today, you're going to understand why some women become obsessively attached to certain men, and why you might be, unknowingly, doing everything to make her see you as just another one. But listen closely. If you skip any part of this video, you'll keep wandering blindly through the maze of gender dynamics, without ever unlocking your true masculine power. If this content is stirring something in you, help me spread this message. Like the video, drop a comment about what resonated the most, and share it with a brother who needs to wake up. You might be the key to his transformation. So take a deep breath, because now we take the first step into this hidden map that few men dare to decode. Code 1. Desire doesn't respond to logic. No matter how much the male mind tries to understand female desire through logic, reason, or emotional merit, it rarely works. The man who lays everything out, over-explains, and argues with clarity often ends up being the one who gets rejected the most. Not because he lacks value, but because he's playing in the wrong arena. Female desire is shaped by ancestral codes, emotional triggers, and unconscious perceptions that defy logic. The man who masters emotional reading understands that seduction begins long before words. It starts with how you enter a room, how you claim space, and how you respond to her silence. The man who doesn't get this runs the risk of being exceptional and still invisible, like the nice guy every woman adores, but never desires. The issue isn't a lack of worth, it's too much external clarity and not enough inner security. When a man projects too much certainty through logic, rather than silence, he kills curiosity, and desire lives in curiosity. A practical example: instead of over-explaining during a date, observe more, speak less, read her gestures and eyes, and respond with presence. That's the essence of subcommunicative control, which brings us to what many ignore, the power of your silence. Strategic absence is more seductive than anxious presence. A man with solid masculine presence doesn't fear the void. He understands that silence creates emotional tension, and tension is the oxygen of psychological attraction. While 98% of men rush to fill every moment with attempts to connect, the man who knows this map makes space for her instinct to come forward. This is the same reason women feel drawn to men they say they can't figure out. It's not about manipulation, it's about letting her project, investigate, and desire. When mystery is real, it awakens the huntress in her. A real-world example. Ever notice how characters like Thomas Shelby from Peaky Blinders captivate without saying much? They dominate space with self-mastery, not chatter. Here's the most dangerous distortion. Thinking connection is built only through conversation. The truth is, a woman tests your energy, your emotional firmness, and even your ability to sit in silence without shrinking. That's Stoic mindset in action. A man who feels good in silence radiates a strength most can't explain, but her body picks up on it. And finally, never forget this. When a man tries to convince, he becomes predictable. And female desire isn't triggered by predictability. It thrives on emotional stimulus. The more you demand logical feedback, the less impact you make. Men with unshakable self-esteem don't play to please. They play to be remembered. And that's when you access the first gateway to the real hidden map of the female mind. But this is just the beginning. What comes next is even more cryptic and far more powerful. Code 2. Attachment begins where risk lies. There's a moment when female desire shifts from simple interest to emotional attachment. And ironically, it doesn't happen when she feels completely secure. It happens when she feels she could lose you. That's the paradox that confuses men who constantly offer guarantees. They believe that by giving more, faster, and more consistently, they'll build stronger connection. But it's exactly the opposite. The female brain is biologically wired to value what carries emotional risk. That's why a man's personal magnetism doesn't come from what he gives, but also from what he holds back. When a man has masculine power, he's in no rush to give himself away entirely. And that doesn't mean he's cold or indifferent. It means he has emotional discernment to balance presence and absence, connection and mystery. Think back to the relationships that marked your life. What pulled you in the most? Probably that lingering sense of discovery. That almost creates female attachment in a nearly hypnotic way. It's gender dynamics in its rawest and truest form. Many men fail here because they confuse affection with approval. They want to be accepted at all times, respond instantly to messages, over-explain things no one asked about, and make promises that were never requested. From a woman's perspective, this kills emotional tension and installs predictability. A man with psychological clarity understands that attachment isn't born in comfort zones, but in the emotional tension between curiosity and uncertainty. When he masters that space, he becomes unforgettable. Here's something you can apply: reduce overexposure. Don't reveal everything up front. Instead of telling your entire life story in 2 dates, let her discover you piece by piece over time. Use phrases that spark positive ambiguity like, "Not everything is what it seems," or "I prefer to keep some things private." This activates the female instinct that's hardwired to decode, and decoding is one of the most powerful sources of desire. She'll feel there's something rare and valuable hidden in you. Now, this only works if it's genuine. Men who fake mystery get exposed fast. But a man with real emotional intelligence knows how to balance vulnerability with firmness. He shares when he wants to, not because he needs her approval. And that quiet autonomy is magnetic to women who are tired of needy, anxious men. Remember this: true emotional attachment begins when she feels like she might lose you, but also realizes she doesn't want to. That's the realm of self-mastery. When a man remains centered even in the face of her emotions, he becomes an emotional anchor. And women cling to men they feel they can't control, but can trust. And if this already feels revealing, wait until you see what happens when she feels psychologically decoded, something only 2% of men can do with true mastery. Code 3, the invisible language of influence. If there's one trait that separates ordinary men from the ones who create true fascination, it's their ability to perceive and use what exists beyond words. Female behavior reveals more than 1,000 phrases, if you know how to observe. The way she touches her hair, crosses her legs, holds her phone, or even looks away when you walk in, all of it speaks. And here's a truth few ever share: the man who masters this reading takes control of the connection. Because if you decode the pattern before she does, you control the direction of the game. This skill can't be learned through formulaic tactics. It comes from constantly training your perception. A man with true masculine presence listens to more than just her words. He feels the mood. He notices when her touch is cold, her smile hesitant, or when she's testing him with subtle provocations. He responds with subtlety, but with intention. That's pure subcommunicative control. A raised eyebrow, a well-timed silence, or a steady gaze can carry more emotional authority than a well-polished speech. And let me be clear, this isn't manipulation. It's emotional intelligence applied with maturity. A man who hones this sensitivity isn't trying to control anyone. He's simply stepping out of the role of passive observer and into the role of leader. A practical example: she says whatever when you make a suggestion. Instead of insisting, look her in the eye and say with a slight smile, "You're the type who never says what you really want, huh?" You disarm, provoke, and lead all at once. Women feel this as a dance. And in that dance, the man with a stoic mindset doesn't rush, doesn't overcorrect, doesn't seek approval. He's comfortable in his own skin, even when he's not in control. He doesn't try to fill every silence. And it's precisely in those moments of stillness that a woman feels invited to open up. The emotional space he creates with that posture is rare. That's why she comes back. That's why she connects. There's a brutal beauty in a man who knows exactly what's going on, but doesn't need to brag about it. He simply acts with precision. That kind of masculine power shifts her perception of you. You're no longer the nice guy. Now you're the man she feels compelled to figure out. And the more she tries to understand, the more entangled she becomes. Real influence is born from the nonverbal. And if you ignore that, you'll stay trapped in cycles of empty conversations and shallow emotions. And here, a quick pause. If this kind of insight is opening your eyes to things you never noticed before, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe, because this is just the beginning. Let's keep going. Speaking of deep influence, in the next code you'll discover why some men create invisible and almost unbreakable bonds with highly selective women, while others are forgotten the next day. Code 4, the invisible bond that creates obsession. There's a rarely discussed but deeply real phenomenon. Some women form almost obsessive emotional bonds with certain men. And it doesn't happen because of looks, status, or dominance. It happens because these men activate a form of emotional attachment that comes from a much deeper place: the feeling of being effortlessly understood. That's the realm of refined emotional reading. When a man picks up on subtleties, silences, and micro-expressions, and responds with emotional precision, he plants a powerful seed. He truly sees me. And there's nothing more addictive for a woman than being emotionally decoded. The secret lies in what most men ignore. what she doesn't say out loud. Modern women talk a lot, but reveal very little about what they actually feel. They test, they observe, they hide, and if you respond only to what's explicit, you'll be just another guy. But if you respond to what's implied, what's left unsaid, that's where you access what few men ever touch. A simple, "I'm fine," from her can mean 1,000 things. The man with psychological clarity hears the tone, reads her eyes, feels her body language. And instead of asking for the 100th time, he simply looks her in the eyes and says, "If you need silence today, that's okay. I'm here." That changes everything. This kind of presence builds an emotional bond based on internal security, not control. The woman feels she can be her full self without needing to perform. That's rare. And because it's rare, it's valuable. And because it's valuable, it's addictive. The invisible bond isn't formed during the conquest, but in the emotional space that follows, where she feels safe, yet challenged. That balance is the very essence of long-lasting psychological attraction. A real-life example. You've probably seen a couple where the woman is clearly more attractive, more social, more in demand, yet completely devoted to her man. Odds are, he isn't just confident. He's mastered the art of responding to her emotions with self-mastery, not reactivity. He doesn't get shaken by her outbursts, nor does he explode when she tests him. He's an anchor, and emotional anchors become the place she always wants to return to. But this only becomes possible when a man stops playing the performance game and starts playing the perception game. That requires training, maturity, and a solid Stoic mindset. It's not about pleasing, it's about interpreting with precision. And that only happens when you no longer need to be loved to act with self-respect. When you act from what you feel, not from what you expect to receive in return. That invisible bond is what turns casual moments into lasting memories. It's what makes a woman remember you even after months, or after other relationships. Because while everyone else was trying to impress her, you simply understood her. And that's what she carries with her. The memory that someone once truly saw her soul without asking for anything in return. But what if there was a fifth and final code? One that explains why some women submit to, admire, and even surrender themselves completely to certain men, even after saying they'd never do that for anyone? Code 5, the sacred control of the uncontrollable. Some men have such a powerful presence that they spark a level of admiration in women that borders on emotional surrender. And this has nothing to do with forced dominance. It has everything to do with a posture that radiates something rare and deeply irresistible. Masculine power delivered with gentleness, direction expressed with ease, and firmness laced with empathy. This is where the entire game changes. When a man shows that he has mastered himself, he automatically takes command of the energy in the relationship. And nothing is more sexually attractive to a woman than standing before a man who could explode, but chooses to stay calm. This is the essence of self-mastery. It's not repression, it's emotional sovereignty. Like a lion who doesn't need to roar to be respected. He just exists, and everyone feels it. A man who carries that energy doesn't need grand gestures or epic speeches. His presence says it all. And that masculine presence, when paired with clear intention, naturally leads a woman to follow his lead. Not out of submission, but admiration. The man who awakens that kind of response isn't begging for attention. He directs with grace. He doesn't raise his voice to be heard. He simply speaks, and she listens. That's the result of emotional intelligence, which filters impulses, regulates reactions, and observes with awareness. A practical example: instead of snapping when she challenges you, you look her in the eye, listen to everything, and calmly reply with 3 simple words. I understand. But no, that hits deeper than any explosion. Why does it work? Because women are wired to test. They need to. It's part of the female instinct, to probe how far your internal strength really goes. And when she sees that you don't flinch, don't collapse, and continue being who you are even in chaos, respect is born. And where there's respect, a visceral desire follows. A desire to be close, to trust, to surrender. That kind of man is rare, because he no longer needs to prove anything. He already understands the mechanics of gender dynamics, and uses them with wisdom. He doesn't bend, but he also doesn't dominate by force. He leads with subtlety and conviction. And that's only possible when your internal security isn't dependent on her behavior. He is whole, with or without her yes. And here lies the highest point of this hidden map. When a woman senses that you're emotionally stable, strategically assertive, and silently confident, she tunes into your frequency. It's like stumbling upon a rare station, broadcasting something she didn't even know she wanted to hear. And once she finds it, she won't want to tune out. The man who controls the uncontrollable controls her heart without ever needing to ask. Now tell me, how many times have you been close to that, but didn't know how to access it? How many women have passed through your life without you realizing that just one internal shift could have made you unforgettable? If you've made it this far, you now hold a map that 98% of men will never see. A map that reveals how real masculine impact isn't about shouting louder, earning more, or showing off muscles. It's about mastering the invisible, about cultivating personal magnetism in silence, observing more than you speak, mastering yourself before trying to influence anyone else. You've now seen how the female instinct responds not to what you say, but to what you radiate, and more importantly, what you hold back. Now it's your move. Are you going to stay stuck in the same patterns that always land you in the friend zone? Or are you going to take charge of your emotional and relational journey? Will you be the predictable man, or the one who leaves silent imprints in her memory? Which version of yourself are you feeding every day? The reactive man, or the one who stands in unshakable self-esteem, psychological clarity, and a stoic mindset? Comment down below. I choose subtle control. That lets me know you're stepping into your power and applying everything you've learned today. And tell me, what code hit you the hardest? Let's talk in the comments. Truly, thank you for watching until the end. You could be doing anything right now, but you chose to invest in your masculine power. And that, my brother, already puts you among the few. Like the video, send it to that friend who keeps getting lost in a woman's emotions, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notifications. Because if this video shifted something in you, just imagine what's coming next.